back to Northwest City Politics in the Know with Juanita. We're glad to welcome you back to our show again this week. We're always happy for people like you, people that are interested in what's happening in our cities. Now, if you haven't watched our show before, each week we'll have someone from the CCX viewing area, one of the 9 cities, people that can talk with us about what's happening in the city or just happened or is going to happen in the future, so you can be connected in if it's your city. So we'll encourage you, if it's your city or it's an area that really interests you, take down the name and phone number of people. And tonight we're very happy to welcome Mayor Shep from Golden Valley. It's been a little while, so we're glad to have you back on our show again.
Thank you.
And I let you introduce yourself out to our wider audience. People in Golden Valley, I'm sure, are pretty well and know you pretty much, but other people might not.
Right. Well, I'm very fortunate that I'm going on my 9th year as mayor of Golden Valley, so I'd hope that the people of Golden Valley might be more familiar with me. But for those who don't live in Golden Valley, or maybe have just moved to Golden Valley, so my wife and I moved to Golden Valley more than 15 years ago. I have to think about how old one of my children, my middle child is. And we moved from St. Louis Park. We've been in Minnesota for 22 years, going on 23. And we moved here. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, but by way of Washington, D.C., where I met my wife. And she's a Wisconsinite, so we thought we'd move kind of back closer to home for her. And so we planted roots here 22 plus years ago.
And very involved in your community.
Yes, you could say that, yeah.
Which is good, because that's what we're always encouraging people out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Get involved. Be part of what's going on in your city. And then I ask you to think a little bit about what kinds of issues have provoked the most responses when they've happened in Golden Valley? Like, what have people called you about the most?
You know, it's the great thing about our community is that they're very engaged, and it really varies from issue to issue, season to season. I mean, I could rattle off a couple. I mean, I could tell you that waste hauling, garbage hauling.
Yes.
But even within garbage hauling, there's a group that really is hardcore and wants composting, and we keep saying it's coming because the county has mandated it. So for everybody who lives in Hennepin County, get ready, June 1st, 2022. But then, you know, we've done some bike lanes, and certain neighborhoods love it, maybe don't love it. Then we've dealt with issues of, right now we're dealing with the potential of putting in a dog park and a community garden in Medley Park, which is in the northwest part of the community, and some people love the idea and others don't. So it really depends on the issue. But what's wonderful is that we get a lot of contact and a lot of communication from our residents.
And you've had a lot of getting people involved in different aspects of what your city's doing too.
Absolutely. Well, and we've just came up on our 2-year anniversary of Brookview Community Center, the new Brookview Community Center. And that was a very long, involved, engaged process with our community. So it just really kind of depends on the topic of the day.
All right, we talked about several issues ahead of time, and you're working on a project to improve the design of Golden Valley, or redesign what you have and what's where and how you're going to change it. Maybe what are some of the areas of concern that led you to this project, the beginnings of it?
Right. So this is a conversation that has really been simmering for a long time, and it's specifically our downtown area. When people say, well, where's downtown Golden Valley, they think skyscrapers. We don't have skyscrapers, but our downtown area is really the crossroads of Golden Valley Road. It's kind of an area of Golden Valley Road, Winnetka Avenue, and Highway 55. So it's a several block area that is our downtown area, and over a period of time, we've focused on different areas of the city, but now it's time to really hone in on this downtown area. And in some cases, as you'll hear in a minute or two, it's past time to look at it.
Yeah, as time goes on, things change that people want to see, so you have to change with the times in order to be the up-and-coming city you are.
Right, exactly.
So you've got several and they're called concept plans, right? You had several concept plans that you're looking at, and somebody drew the plans up for you, but I don't remember who, so you can tell us about that.
Right, right. So if this is the right time, I can hold
Right,
these
right,
up so
right.
that the audience at home can see, and or you know, or if there's another way of showing it. But basically, what we have in the downtown, this is our downtown area. I'll turn it that way so you can see it as well.
Right.
You can see we have different colored quadrants,
Right.
and that red pinkish quadrant is what we call the southwest quadrant.
Okay.
So that is bordered by Winnetka Avenue to the east and Highway 55 to the south. And that's where people would probably be familiar with the Golden Valley Shopping Mall.
Right.
So shops like Ace Hardware down in the valley, New Bohemia. It also includes the lighting store
Oh, sure.
and All Strings Attached, which are two separate buildings
Yeah,
adjacent
that are close.
to the mall.
Right.
Yeah, but that's included in this
in
this
your map.
area. Yep, in this area. So that's one quadrant, and then we have above that is the northwest quadrant, and that is that's where people might be familiar with Devani's
Right.
or Flower Shop or an Asian fast food restaurant and a tailor. So we call that Town Square. And then in the blue area, let's see, there we go. In the blue area,
Right.
that's the northeast quadrant. That's where City Hall is, and the library and McDonald's. And some of our park and rec public maintenance
Okay.
facilities. So those are really the three of the four quadrants we're looking
Right.
at. The southeast quadrant, which is below the blue quadrant, where Highway 55 is to the south.
Right.
We're not really touching that because that's where Golden Valley Commons is.
Oh, right,
D'Amico, Patina, Starbucks.
The
More-
clock, the water fountain.
Exactly, exactly. That we feel is a good community gathering space. We feel it's been a good sustainable place for the past 20 plus years.
Oh, yeah, you always see lots of activity there.
Right, so for that reason, we're not really focused on that spot too much. We're focused on the three other areas. And I don't know if you want, I can give you a few more specifics.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Because to give us some idea of what are the different ways people are visualizing this might be
Right.
redesigned.
Right. So the whole goal really is we want to make the area. There's 2 points we want to do.
Okay.
Actually, 3. One is in some cases more modernizing of the facilities. But the primary issues really are we want to create more housing opportunities and commercial opportunities, but we also want to make it more pedestrian friendly. We want people to feel as if they want to walk across Winnetka Avenue. They just had lunch at they just had lunch at D'Amico's,
Yeah.
and they need to get something from Ace Hardware.
Right.
And we don't want them to feel like they have to get in their car and just drive right across the
right,
street.
right.
We want people to feel safe crossing the street and making it an enjoyable experience. So as you can see in this drawing, this is, if I have to cheat here a little bit and just double check, this is the southwest quadrant.
Okay.
And as you can see, if you look closely, what you'll see is a combination of items where there's potential housing, there's potential commercial redevelopment, including what we've heard a lot from residents in the downtown Golden Valley area is a grocery store. So we did 4 years ago look at, we actually created an introduction to the Wedge Co-op and to the owner of the shopping mall. Unfortunately, they couldn't come to an agreement on where it was going to be, how it was going to be
Right.
done, but we want to keep trying.
Keep working.
Yep. So that is one idea for the Southwest
Oh, yeah, a long
shopping
time
center
ago, we
area.
used to have a grocery store.
Well, across the street, right, there
Right,
used to be the Red
right,
Owl.
right.
So yeah, you know, I guess we're kind of going back.
Recycle,
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly. So that's one concept, and that's
Okay.
for Southwest. For the Northeast quadrant, this I'm really excited about. I'm excited about all of them, but
Right.
this one has a lot of potential. And the reason why I'd say that is because this is mostly public property,
Right now.
where we have the most control.
Sure.
Whereas the Southwest quadrant, you're looking at, you're interacting with a private owner, property owner. You're working with developers. Can they work together with the city?
Right.
So it's a little touch and go. But in this case, what you have is a variety of possibilities that we're
Okay.
looking at. And so for starters, the first part would be taking the public maintenance buildings and moving them into a different part of the city where it's more industrial.
Okay.
And by doing that, then you can see here, what we're opening up is some possibilities to put in more housing,
Oh, sure.
put in some commercial opportunities, but we're also already started having conversations with the county library to see whether or not do we want to have one building. And as you'll see from this, Bassett Creek goes through a number of our communities.
Right.
And so it goes right by the library currently. It goes underneath Winnetka Avenue.
Right.
And so one idea is to combine buildings, be a library and a city hall, and really kind of turn ourselves back around to, we've been kind of ignoring the creek over there.
So kind of, is the creek run underground there?
It runs under Winnetka Avenue,
Okay.
but if you actually, if you're in the right spot,
Right.
on your way into the library, you go to the right side of the building,
Okay.
you can see the creek. I've actually kayaked right there under
Oh,
Winnetka
fun.
through
Okay.
the tunnel. So it's there.
Right.
So that's one concept you'll see with the library and the city hall being one and the same.
Oh, right.
One other concept for the same area, as you can see, is where you have the library and city hall right next to each other. Still, we create some ideas
Right.
or opportunities for housing, for some commercial units, but instead we have a few more public buildings, including police and fire, whereas the previous option, they were put somewhere else. So that's another example of the northeast quadrant. And then actually one final example is kind of a hybrid where if we're not able to merge with the library, because it's going to cost some money and it's going to create some planning, and if we can't do that, well then here's another option. Again, more alternatives for
Right.
housing, commercial, and as you can see, we would move City Hall and the fire station and the police station to a different location in that quadrant.
Right.
And last but not least is the what we call the northwest quadrant, and this is a commercial industrial area north of the creek. Again, the creek has been kind of ignored back there.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
so here's an opportunity to create some, as you can see here, some green space, some walking paths, a trail. And in fact, if you look close enough, you might see a little underpass going underneath Winnetka Avenue to then meet up with the revitalized area where the
Right.
library and the city hall could go. So we're really creating a nice creekside
Oh, yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah.
So I always think Bassett Creek is kind of like the mini Ha Creek of
Yeah.
the north, and so let's celebrate that.
Yeah, and put it to use.
Exactly. And so we'd have some additional housing over there, and some potential. I don't think we'd have much commercial units, but this is something that would take a period of time because you
Oh,
have a lot
definitely.
of commercial and industrial over
Right.
there right now. So those are a lot of the concepts that we're looking at right now.
So, who's going to be involved, or how is the decision going to be made about what you want to actually move to, and what's the process?
Right, that's a great question. So we've already had one open forum, public hearing, no, not a public hearing, but really kind of a public forum where residents and business owners came together and gave us some feedback on these concepts, a lot of feedback, which was very helpful.
Oh, yeah.
We've had an online survey, and so now we're in the phase of distilling a lot of that information, further honing in the concepts to see, okay, realistically, putting together basically a game plan.
Right.
Of, okay, do we want to focus on the northeast quadrant first, the southwest quadrant first? Are we able to do a couple of spots here and there in the different quadrants that
Right.
will just kind of spark development,
Oh,
private
right.
development to come in? So we're trying to figure out the timing. And this isn't something that's going to happen in 6 months.
Oh, no.
This is something that could happen as, over the next several years, or at least the very beginning of it in the
Right.
next several years, to as far out as 15 to 20 years from now. It really depends on, in some cases, the
Oh, sure.
cooperation of private property owners, like the Golden Valley Shopping Mall, or can we get developers who'd be interested in building some units on what is currently City Hall campus.
Yeah, that's an important part.
Right. So we're going to have more public feedback though along the way.
So people that are interested in what's going to happen to that area should just keep watch on your
Yep.
website for up and coming events.
There's a lot of information for sure. There's a lot of information already on there on our city website about this information. If they have more questions about it, they can
Sure.
call Jason Zimmerman, who is our planning manager,
Okay.
who has been taking the lead on this this project.
And there's the city council will ultimately make the decision of which one or where or how, but you'll have a lot of input into that.
Absolutely, and these are concepts.
Yeah, it's not the finished product.
Right, exactly. I mean, what we have here are these shapes of the buildings aren't set in stone.
Right.
These are concepts. A lot of it's also going to depend on the market.
Oh,
and
definitely.
what the developers are able to build. Is it a square? Is it a rectangle? Is it, I'm being a little facetious. Is it a circular building? That's where we have to partner. But the first step is to change the zoning
Right.
and the land use maps that are going to attract that as we reach out to these
Oh,
developers.
right,
They're
right.
going to look and they're going to say, okay, we are preparing for this change, and that's an indicator to them that we want to partner with them.
Yeah, and that you're ready to do something active.
Absolutely.
Now, the plans will gradually move in that direction, but you'll have lots of behind the scenes work that people won't notice for quite a while before you start actually seeing things happen.
Correct.
Physically.
Correct, because we have to determine where. Right now we have a park maintenance building. We have, we have actually, if I'm getting this right, we have 3 different utility types of buildings on the City Hall campus. In addition to City Hall and our public safety building, where are we going to put those maintenance buildings? We still have to figure that out first before we can open up the property and see if we have developers come in and take a look at the property.
So there's quite a few decisions that have to happen before you get to the developer stage.
Correct. It's a very linear process. It's almost like a domino effect. And one of those first dominoes really is, where do we put those maintenance buildings?
And there's a lot of development that's going in the direction of having some business, having some housing, having some shops. So that whole combination of things seems to be happening in several cities.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I should add, while we saw the concept of having the grocery store in the southwest quadrant near where the current Golden Valley shopping mall is, if we can't get the property owner there to be interested, well then perhaps we might have conversations with grocery store to say, well, what about the Golden Valley City Hall campus?
Sure.
On the corner of Golden Valley Road and Winnetka Avenue. Now they may say, thanks, but no thanks. Highway 55 is a much more desirable location because of the traffic. So we're just going to have to, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle that still need to be put together.
All right, then you've got a Rising Tides Task Force?
That's right, we do.
And that's on Wednesday, March 11th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at Brookview. Maybe you can tell us about that task force.
Right. Unfortunately, I have these handy dandy props to show you for downtown redesign. I forgot the ones for Rising Tides. But so we have an equity task force. It's in its 2nd year now. And the TIDES actually is an acronym.
Right.
Let's see if I can get this right. It's Trust, Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Social Justice. So that's how you get the TIDES.
Right.
And of course, it's the like the lifting of all boats. Rising tides lift all boats. And we are hosting our 2nd public session where we want people to come forward and give us input on, how do we diversify our workforce? How do we create more diverse programs and services that are going to make not just a certain sector of our community feel included, but everybody in our community feel included? So we're looking to get as much input as possible, and it's as they say, people vote with their feet. So in this case, come on out. I believe some childcare is going to be offered if people need help with that. We had some good snacks and desserts last time. I imagine that will be there as well. So we just want to lower any sort of barriers that would prevent people from coming the first time we did this. We want them to come back the 2nd time.
So that's an important area out in our area of the suburbs.
Yes, it is.
Because we're diversifying as we sit here, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, and I think our area, there's a lot of cities doing good things in terms of getting people together and dealing with any issues that might be there.
Well, I mean, one example that we're starting to change, it sounds really easy to do, but it's not as easy, but all of our materials, our city materials that are on the website, that go out in the mail, they're all in English. And if we truly are going to be inclusive, then we need to provide some alternative translations. Whether it's on the website, whether it's in our social media, whether it's in our materials, and make people aware that if they want to get all of that information, they can either come to City Hall or there might be a software tool that they can use on our website in the near future where they can change the entire script to
cool.
Russian or Amharic or Somali, you name it.
Yeah.
But we got to get the right software so that we
right.
don't wind up being like Iowa with election voting apps that
Definitely
don't
not.
work.
Been practicing, use them plenty ahead of time.
There will be a
before you do
test for
anything.
sure.
Right.
We will test drive these beforehand before they
Right.
go live. Yeah.
And then the last. Now, your city council recently set some annual goals for itself. You work with city staff when you're doing that. Can you talk about that process and then what goals you came up with?
Right. Well, I've got a handy dandy, prop here that I'm happy to show. Let's see. I'll put that so that doesn't get confused. We call it the Golden Valley Pyramid of Success.
That sounds good.
I know my face is being blocked a little bit. Maybe I'll move it over here a little bit. But we have a pyramid of success, and it's hard to see, but basically it's a combination of our values and our vision and
I see that.
our core services and action steps. And what we have right here are what I call those buckets or those silos, where we're dealing with strategic development and effective governance and our infrastructure, our financial wellness, and then those community affairs.
Right.
And so within those 5 different areas, we've got some of our ongoing action steps that have been carried forward from last year.
Right.
The downtown redesign is an example of an ongoing action step. But then what we also did is we just recently approved our action steps for 2020. And so it's really a combination of, it's a really good symbiotic relationship between the city staff and the city council working together, because we're dreamers.
Right.
We're visionaries. We want to come and we think Golden Valley is a wonderful community, but how can we make it better? Pay it forward for the future.
Right.
And but you need staff there to help you create that vision and implement that vision. So working with staff, they could say, okay, realistically, this is what we're able to accomplish this year. This is what we already have on our plate. This is what we have room for. And so out of that process, we just completed last week, as a matter of fact, these action steps. So I don't know if you want me, I can.
Sure. Why don't you
I can briefly go through them.
Yeah, just briefly go through what they are.
So in the area of strategic development and redevelopment, it's continuing to proceed with the downtown study and the city facility needs study that I mentioned before about what do we do with some of those public facilities. In the effective governance section, we're looking to how can we improve communication with our residents and our businesses through both existing and new channels of communication. So we, as I say, we've kind of caught up to the 21st century with the Twitter, with the Facebook, with the Instagram, but are there other ways that we can more effectively communicate with our residents? In the the infrastructure maintenance and enhancement section, this was an interesting one about improving traffic safety. So we're going to look at, for example, the state legislature did authorize cities to lower their speed limits by 5 miles per hour. But we do hear that from residents in certain neighborhoods where they feel like the traffic is going too fast. Although we hear in other neighborhoods, traffic isn't going fast enough. So we're looking at how can we improve safety when it comes to traffic. So that's going to be interesting to see how we tackle that. Our financial wellness, we just continue to work on, we continue to work on our debt reduction plan, because we're around $70 million in debt, although we've brought that down from $90 million. We also want to look at how we can reduce the negative impact on Golden Valley of the state's fiscal disparities program. And to make that really simple, we put in, because we are a good economic developed community, we put in some of our tax base goes into a metropolitan pool of dollars that gets redistributed to other communities that may not have the General Mills or the Alliances or the tenants of the world. So, but this has been happening since 1970. And it's gotten to the point where now we're feeling kind of penalized. And we feel as if we have paid out, I believe it's $40 million over the years into this general pot. And we've had to raise taxes excessively to compensate for that loss. And so for that reason, I mean, as I mentioned, we're $69–70 million in debt,
Right.
or have debt. We're
Right.
not in debt, but we
Right.
have that bonded, accumulated debt. If we had some of the fiscal disparities dollars back, then I think we could do, and not just me, but our council
Right.
believes we could do more without having to borrow more money.
So is that through the legislature then?
Well, the first step really is to talk with other communities who are
Bond together.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, look, for some of the Northwest communities are the winners.
Right.
They're the ones that get extra money.
Right.
Golden Valley and other communities are what are called the losers because they lose the money.
Right.
So we got to get some of the winners and the losers together to figure out how we feel like we can get a little more of that pie back, if you will, and how the communities who are the winners don't feel like they are losing some money, that they turn into losers. So we got to figure that out before we go to the legislature.
Oh, right. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And the final one I was just going to mention is our community affairs silo, if you will, here. That one's an interesting one. Pursuing conversion therapy ban. And what that basically means is that we are troubled by the fact that you have in Golden Valley, and there's other communities too, where there are people who are using psychology and psychiatry to try to convert people who are gay or lesbian or transgender or bisexual, just trying to convert them back to being straight. And it usually is on minors.
Right.
And so we feel it's predatory and ethically not right. And so we are looking at ways that Golden Valley might be able to prevent that from happening to the degree that we do not encroach on religious rights.
Right.
But beside that, are there other ways that we can educate the public and say that is, we want to welcome everybody here. We're not looking to convert anybody. And so we're here to protect our children from those types of predatory practices.
And work out the best way of doing that.
Absolutely, right, correct. So those are our goals, and that's what we're going to work on. Some of them we're going to get to right away. Some of them we've been working on. Some of them we may not get to until the end of the year. It just really kind of depends on what our capacity is.
But you'll never get there if you don't have set a goal to do
Exactly,
it.
exactly.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your time with our audience. And we'll ask you to tune in next week for part 2 on Golden Valley issues. We're glad that you've been with us and invite you to join us again. Bye.